On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped onto the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. The decision to use these weapons was not made lightly, nor was it made without controversy. The use of these bombs is an ethical debate that still rages today, and it is often overlooked that questions about the ethical validity of the action were raised even before the bombings. Now, let's take a closer look at the major players in the events leading up to the bombing. J. Robert Oppenheimer was the director of the Manhattan Project, and Leo Szilard was one of the physicists responsible for the project. Another major player was General Leslie Groves, the military head of the project from the Army. In this next scene, Oppenheimer informs Szilard of Germany's surrender.
Hello. Leo, did you hear the news?
Hi, Julius. The surrender of Germany? Yes, that is great news. I suppose our research will never have to be used now.
Well, don't be so sure of that. General Groves still wants the project to continue. He still sees the Japanese as a significant threat.
I didn't know that they were working on a nuclear bomb. This was only supposed to be a defensive weapons program.
Well, if we use it, it should stop the war. Fewer American soldiers will die. That will make the American public happier, so it should be accepted. Jeremy Bentham's utility principle. Overall, fewer people will suffer from both countries.
But what about the precedent that you're establishing? Is this the way that war should be fought now? What if everyone used atomic bombs to win wars? Kant's universality principle.
Well, that's the plan of action right now. You better not cause a fuss about it.
Immediately after the bomb was tested on August 16, 1945, Szilard circulated a petition among the scientists, calling for the president to reconsider the use of the bomb. They requested that the Japanese be given clear terms of surrender and post-war treatment. They also suggested a clear demonstration of the bomb before actually using it for an attack.
You wanted to see me, Leslie?
Well, remember the petition that you told me about? I didn't believe it, so I polled all of the scientists. Apparently 83% of them want the bomb to be demonstrated before we actually use it.
Well, you know that the petition was started by Szilard. He has some influence on them.
Yes, I've never trusted that guy. I should have him arrested again.
Following the bombings, Oppenheimer changed his mind about the use of atomic weapons. He recognized the destruction that they could cause, and became an advocate for control of nuclear arms.
Leo, I'm sorry that I didn't take your concerns more seriously in our previous meeting. I was just trying to preserve American lives as much as possible.
I was just trying to point out that the concept of the atomic bomb was not designed as an offensive weapon. Our primary concern in designing it was to counter the Germans' program and to have one ready if they developed one.
Yes, though after seeing the devastation that we caused by using the bomb, I am having second thoughts about whether we did the right thing. I suppose that I got caught up in the excitement of the physics involved with the bomb. I really wanted to see how effective it would be. Technological enthusiasm.
Julius, that is a horrible reason. It completely devalues the individuals who died. They have much greater value than to simply be experimental subjects.
I realize that overall, there were a lot of poor decisions made about the bombs. They did end the war, but it came at a great cost.
Yes, and that cost was entirely unnecessary. The Japanese would have surrendered even if we had not used the bombs.
Well, that's possible, but we definitely had other options to put pressure on them. They probably would have come to the conclusion that defeat was inevitable and eventually surrendered. The difficulty is that it may have cost the lives of more American military to get to that point.
Yes, but we don't know that for sure. All that we know is that we took an action that treated people as the means to an end. We didn't recognize the intrinsic value of man. Even though the Japanese were an enemy, we are all equal before God, and one life is not more valuable than another.
Well, I disagree with that premise, but I still don't support the action.
Well, at least you can agree that we should not have used the bomb simply because we had it. It was designed as a defensive weapon, and should only have been used that way. Once that threat was no longer present, we should have ceased working on the bomb as a weapon.
That is true. We did use the situation as a large-scale experiment of our technology. Hopefully people can learn from our example and something like this will never happen again.
So, the debate over the ethics of atomic warfare still continues today, especially with the increased presence of nuclear arms. A lot of this debate stems from the first wartime application of the weapon, these bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombings did immediately end the war, but they may not have been the only option. The use of atomic weapons has not actually set a precedent for warfare. Instead, it has served as a warning against their use. But in the end, was the United States justified in using the weapons? A large contributor to the decision was a general sentiment against the Japanese. The bombings were very much a retribution for the early attack on Pearl Harbor. However, these emotions, while they do play into the initial reactions to the decision, actually have no bearing on the ethics of the choice. Was the correct choice made? I leave that for you to decide.